No, there's too many immigrants. Look, I'm not saying these issues are not issues that must be tackled. I'm just saying, can you have a different vantage point? Because in you having that kind of bird's eye view, you can better tackle all these issues. You can think differently about them. Because you see, the more we're at each other's throats, as Bavenda, AmaZulu, AmaXhosa, Ndebele, as South Africans, Zimbabweans, Ghanaians, Nigerians, and all of that, they're happy for us to have those little, squabbles among ourselves.
Yeah.
It helps them. While we're distracted with that, they are thinking, they are planning, they are controlling.
They benefit from that.
And a lot of these...
While you guys are fighting, they're going, all right, let me take this in the meantime. Let me buy that.
Yeah, and it is my belief that they possibly, as far as propaganda goes and media, I think they are more than happy to fuel all these little tensions that we have going on. More than happy.
Because it deters from what's really important.
Yeah. Then you won't ask the real questions.
Yeah.
Let's not prolong this too long, Coast. Your true thoughts, and then we go back to Shahid.
No, I mean, I think of them as, the most textbook, very basic, elementary explanation of an entrepreneur, which is a man or a person. I'm going to say a person that looks for a need in a certain specific land and how they can make money out of that area. That's pretty much it. Would see, how can I benefit? How can I make myself more relevant through this place here? I come in, I invest, I get the resources, I leave. I don't stay there. I just come back to make my money and go.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so you can think about these guys. They don't think about the world the way we do. The world is very small for them. It's nothing to sleep in Johannesburg, and then tomorrow head to New York, the other day head to Brussels. That's the world for them. That's, like me.
They're not confined to one area or one section, yeah.
Like, I can only imagine doing a one-way trip to Joburg in one day. For them, that's from Joburg to New York.
Halfway across the world.
Guys, we're insects. I'm just telling y'all. Some of y'all will be triggered. We insects over here with all these little squabbles we're doing.
It's not even that we're insects, it's the mindset itself that makes you an insect.
The mindset of an insect. We gotta grow up, man.
Yeah.
We gotta grow up because, you see, when you start to really understand how the world works, how power works, the true nature of the world, it's not, like I alluded to in one of my previous videos, it's a freaking jungle. Predators and prey. You know what I mean? And realistically, that's why now you see America is talking about going after Ibrahim Traore. They can do that. But it's against international law, though.
To do that.
But they'll still do it if they want to. They've been doing it. They took out Lumumba in the Congo. They took out Sankara. They took out Gaddafi. They do it. And it's illegal.
No one's going to stop them. That's the issue. Yeah.
Why? Because they are the apex predator. As for now, anyway. They're in their declining days, the United States of America. But, they can still bite. And that's why now they are putting their focus on Ibrahim Traore. And by the way, shout out to Captain Ibrahim Traore. I think Traore took this journey knowing he could be taken out. I'm sure he has looked at the history. He's looked at what happened to Osankara and them and others. He's like, yeah, they're going to come for me.
Yeah.
And they have started to come for him now. I watched a U.S. general, what is his name, Michael Langley, talking about, starting to spread propaganda to the U.S. Senate, talking about Ibrahim Traore misusing the country's resources. And I was interested, right? That, wow, Senate. Okay. So, talking about these, somehow, right, the U.S. empire is concerned about the Burkina Faso citizens, not benefiting from their minerals. All of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, I mean, when the Europeans control our resources, are we really benefiting from them? No.
No, no.
But all of a sudden, an African leader who seems to have some vision and some purpose about him and moving a certain way, all of a sudden, the people are oppressed.
It's almost like the problem is that someone is using their own land.
You know what I mean?
And they had a stake in that land. Now they're worried. Would say, well, what are you doing with our money now? Where are you going? Come back.
And even then, the land, the resources, it belongs to us. It's not theirs. The land of Burkina Faso, the gold, the riches, everything belongs to the people of Burkina Faso.
But I mean, it's like, again, with the example of the entrepreneur, if I start a business in this, like where we are right now, I open a business, the business thrives. You come in and you open the exact same business. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to have a really big fight because now you're taking my money. Even if it means you are from that area. I'm going to try and get you out.
Am I taking your money or am I reclaiming what's rightfully mine?
See, that's the question. Yeah.
Because you see, as far as I'm concerned, all colonial governments or hang-ups, post-colonialism, all these administrations that we have had, which were neo-colonial a continuation of colonialism, all of them are illegitimate as far as I'm concerned. Now, when you have a leader like Ibrahim Traore who has popular support among his people, where I think last year or the year before, he said he's resigning and the people said, no, stay on, bro.
Continue.
Stay on. We don't trust none of these so-called civilian leaders who are going to come in after you. We don't trust none of them. You stay on and continue. That's what the people said of Burkina Faso. Now, here comes an American general saying, these people are oppressed. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, you know what I mean? It's like a revelation. I remember it's like when I was listening to Donald Trump talking about what's happening in South Africa.
Yeah.
I get him like, oh.
What do you know?
Oh, so that's what's happening.
What's going on?
Oh, I had no idea. And I live here.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we are busy oppressing Afrikaners here, taking their land and just, taking everything that's it. Like, I was just like, oh, wow. So it's the same thing with Burkina Faso.
I think it's more dangerous because, at least with someone like Trump, the likelihood of him knowing just how much value is in your country is not as great. But with these guys, they know exactly what they're fighting for.
You see, now you're going to hear what Shahid Bolsen says about Trump's role or what his job is. He calls it the controlled demolition of America. As per the wishes and desires of the OCGFC.
Nah, show us, bro. Play this thing.
Oh, I'm talking too much. We're not going to get through this. Oh, I don't want us to watch the whole thing. Just some key...
I can see it's 21 minutes.
Key points.
Country compartments of the world. The A-National GFC don't see this. When they look at the world, they see zones of resources. They see natural resources, human resources, and so on. They see opportunity zones. It's like X-ray glasses. They see through the borders and they see through the states and through the governments and what have you, just like looking through walls, looking through the skin and the muscles and seeing the skeleton, seeing the bones. That's what they see. Their vision is on a different light spectrum. It blocks out history, ideology, culture, patriotism, nationalism, religion, and what have you. They don't see any of that. So like when you and I look at a map, we might see that there's 3 or 4 different countries in the region, for example. But the A-National OCGFC, they just see one corridor of extractable resources. That's all they see. When they see Congo, they don't see Congo, they see cobalt, for example. You have to understand how they see things so that you can understand and so that you can predict their behavior. You're used to the old system of decision makers being part of and being internal to nation-state power structures. So you think that they make policies based on national interests. But those days are over in the West. There's a power structure now that has outgrown nation-state systems in the West. The leaders in America, the leaders in Europe, don't care about America. They don't care about Europe. If you don't understand that, then their policies won't make any sense to you. And this is what I'm seeing from a lot of political commentators and analysts who can't understand why Europe and why the UK are still insisting on supposedly blind support for Ukraine and for Zelensky, because this is obviously against the national interests of European countries and against the interests of the UK. So they assume that European leaders care about that. They think that they're supposed to care about that because traditionally they did. But these leaders care about what's in the interests of the a national OCGFC, not their nations. And that's been the case throughout the Ukraine conflict. You know, these policies are suicide if you think that the leaders are tied in any way whatsoever to the lives of their people. But if you understand their position correctly, then you'll know that it's not suicide, it's euthanasia. Like I say, if you look at the world the way that they do, in terms of zones of resources, zones of opportunities, and of course, there's going to be a layer of that map that will include or will incorporate data about demographics, demographic robustness or depletion, you know, predictable societal factors that either contribute to or detract from stability and feasible prosperity and so on. So if you look at Europe on a map like that, well, it'll be incredibly sparse. There's just not much there. The truth is there never has been much there, which is exactly why they had to go all around the world and rob and loot and pillage, because they don't have much on their own. But now they're not even able to rob and loot and pillage all around the world. I mean, if we're, say, like 50 years in the future, you know, 2075, looking back at the history of Europe, you know, the likely future of Europe looked at retrospectively, is going to be quite grim. Basically, Europe as a coherent project dissolves between now and 2075. I mean, by 2075, there will be no coherent European project at all. It will collapse through erosion and strife between now and 2075. You know, institutions of one.
So there you have it. He lays it out and he's explaining the trajectory.
Yeah.
How the OCGFC have analyzed the situation, because these are not people who think like me and you. Mouth every month, and you know, those kinds of these are long-term planners.
Yeah, thinking way ahead.
And so they've looked at all the data, trends, trajectory. They're like, yeah, Europe is not what it used to be. Europe and America are not what they used to be.
So they found a weakness in a sense.
Not found a weakness. Remember, these are people who, remember, as Shahid tells us, they're not necessarily ideological, religious or anything. They deal with data and they are reading the map to see. And they're looking population, demographics, Europe. They are looking at trajectory in terms of economy. He says possibly around 2016 already, they had already decided that, yeah, Europe and America,
not worth it.
We need to move elsewhere. It's no longer going to be profitable and competitive over here the next few years. As they are seeing new powers emerging, BRICS, the global south coming through, they're looking around and they look at Europe and America incoherent. America has pretty much alienated almost all its allies in Europe.
Postponed.
So that's why he's saying it's no longer a coherent. I mean, Europe and America was one of the most solid alliances global that we knew of. Joined at the hip. Now they're at each other's throats. Trump is fighting with Canada. He's fighting with France. He's fighting with everyone. Mexico, Greenland, Denmark. Now everyone in Europe is agitated with America.
Like, what did Greenland ever do to anyone? Like,
I haven't heard of what Greenland has done to anyone. I haven't studied Greenland's history, but I haven't heard in geopolitical terms whether they did anything to anyone.
With all that ice, the last thing I'm worried about, is Trump in Greenland. With all that ice, I've seen pictures of Greenland. I'm just like, wow.
So
he really found a fight. He found a reason to fight.